Earlier today on a call from our program, I had clients and I started to see clients, and it was interesting because I think sometimes people come to Ayurveda because with questions like, what's my dosha? And sometimes as a practitioner, we can answer that, and sometimes we can't, because there can be so many layers of complexity and imbalance that it can be really hard to tell what's going on with somebody. And what I noticed emerge over a few years of practice was it didn't matter what someone's dosha was. The things that we would work on were always the same because they were Ayurveda's 3 pillars of health. We needed to make sure they could digest, so they could get nourishment, so they could build their tissues, so they could be healthy. Need to make sure that people are sleeping so that their body can cleanse itself, so that they can rest and find a certain amount of balance and stability. And then we also needed to make sure that people were managing their resources well, right? So whether we want to think about that as energy or as whatever resources, we are biological, and so there's a finite amount of resources we have, and what we choose to do with them, how we spend them or how we don't spend them, makes a difference in our overall sense of well-being. So after a little while of practice, I started to notice that what I was telling everyone was the exact same thing, maybe slight tweaks and variations, but I was basically telling people the same thing. And I realized that although it can be really useful and interesting and fun to know one's dosha, it is not necessary to know this in order to use Ayurveda to improve our state of health. And this is where the 3 pillars come in, because it doesn't matter what your dosha is, you're always shoring up Ayurveda's 3 pillars of health.
That's right.
And what I found was most of the writings that I was exposed to were always entering Ayurveda from the lens of the doshas. And I wanted to give people a chance to enter through the lens of the 3 pillars of health. And if you work on your 3 pillars of health, your dosha will reveal itself. You'll get there. Right. And yet some people were able to go through the lens of dosha and understand it. But I found a lot of people would get really confused because dosha is a really complex, it's a complex concept.
That's right. And now Ayurveda is becoming much more recognized and integrated in the West and abroad. You know, it's not just the yogis anymore. You know, the yogis have had this knowledge for thousands of years and have been able to integrate it into their daily